Hi, I'm Jonathon, Executive Director with the Y of San Diego County. I am honored to have our guest today, Jocelyn Protopappas, who is a manager of special projects with Center for Excellence in Aging and Longevity, and that is at the San Diego State University College of Health and Human Services. The Center for Excellence in Aging and Longevity is also known as the acronym CEAL. Today, we have the opportunity to learn about the work that CEAL is doing in the community and hopefully tap into resources so that we can all age well. Jocelyn, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Jonathan. I'm very excited to be here today.
So what are we going to talk about? I know there's a number of different programs that you guys support in the community. You interface with so many different organizations and cities. But if we could, let's level set. As I understand, our senior population is growing. If you could give some context what that looks like and how that may have evolved over time and what the next 5 years may look like.
Yes. So if you've read any articles about aging or been engaged in the aging space at all, you'll hear this term of the shifting demographics. And so what's happening in our aging population is exactly that. We're seeing a big shift in the demographics. I'll give you some statistics here, Jonathan. It's going to be a lot of numbers, but stick with me and I'll put it all into context at the end here.
Thank you. Thank you.
So at the beginning of the 19th century, we had around 3.1 million people that were over the age of 65. Over the course of a century, we got to about 35 million older adults. So in 2000, we're at 35 million. Now here's where it gets really wild. In the next 30 years, so from 2000 to 2030, it's anticipated that that number will double. So by 2030, we are anticipated to have 70 million people over 65 in the United States.
That's amazing. That's quite an escalation, so to speak, in terms of that demographic. So thus, the significance of what we're talking about. So the needs are becoming greater in terms of serving this growing population.
Absolutely. And what I'll say is that, when we think about this older adult population, there's some really unique things happening right now. Why 2030 is so significant is that this is the year that the youngest member of the boomer generation will be aging into that 65 plus group. And I think this really speaks to, our major transitions in public health and longevity and medicine, but people are living much longer than they used to 2 or 3 generations ago. And it's impacting almost every system that we work and engage with. This growing population is going to have an impact on things like our built environment. So the way we have houses, our public transit systems, the way we have public spaces and outdoor places. They're going to have an impact on our social environment. So things like our civic and work engagement, social participation, inclusion, respect, all of those things. They're going to have impact on our business and our economy and our education and our healthcare systems. So this big boom in people is really critical to be thinking about and looking forward to how we can support them and make sure that, like you said, they're aging well.
Well, what you said there is really just a boom in terms of, that's amazing what you're talking about. I didn't even think about all the different inroads and impacts that you're mindful of in the work that you're doing. So tell me a little bit about CEAL and how CEAL is showing up in this particular space.
Absolutely. So CEAL is associated and affiliated with San Diego State University, and our mission is to spearhead efforts to meet the current and emerging challenges in the field of aging and longevity. And we do that by helping to bridge the world of academia at the university with our business, with the government, and with community members and community organizations in San Diego. Our efforts are divided into 5 different categories or like buckets of work that we do. So we have our research bucket, we have our age-friendly initiatives, we have workforce development, which also has a piece under it that is focused on caregivers. We are also engaged in longevity work and then policy and advocacy.
That's fantastic. So that's a pretty broad chart of work that you're involved in. How long has CEAL been in existence?
That's a really great question. It's only been around since 2021.
That's wonderful because the needs are only going to grow. So I appreciate the work that's being done in that way. I know you spoke to kind of meeting the particular needs in the community and certain topics are bubbling up. I know here at the Y, we just did some research more recently on loneliness and isolation. I think the pandemic really highlighted that social isolation. And so the Y being about belonging and welcoming and connection, aligned with some of the things that you're speaking to. But if you could share about the symposium and what the thrust of that was.
Absolutely. So we just did our CEAL Spring Symposium in early May, and that's actually how we got reconnected. I'll say reconnected with the Y because growing up, Jonathan, I didn't share this with you. I was a Y kid. I spent all my summers going to a Y summer camp and got before and after school care at the Y. So this is a reconnection with the Y for me.
That's beautiful.
I know, it's really, thank you guys. Yeah, I think it was pretty instrumental in my childhood. So we got reconnected with the Y because of our spring symposium. So our spring symposium this year was a 2-day event that was held at the Grossmont Health District. The first day of our event was a double feature film screening. The first film that we screened was the film by the George G. Glenner Center that is titled Recreate the Past to Reclaim the Present. Jonathan, this movie will bring you to your knees. It is an incredible film that shows you the behind the scenes look at how the town square at the Glenner Center was created. The Glenner Center's town square is located in Chula Vista, and it is a place where caregivers and their individuals living with Alzheimer's and dementia can receive day services, or the person with Alzheimer's can receive day services. And they are at a center that looks like a 50s town square. They use a model called reminiscence therapy to help support the individuals who are there, and then their caregivers can get respite during the day or take care of what they need to and then pick their loved one up at the end of the day.
Sounds like a wonderful way to provide familiarity, a sense of grounding as well. How would someone be able to see the film? Is it up on YouTube, or is there...
The film right now is actually, this was a very exclusive showing to CEAL, which was, if you missed it, sad because it is incredible. But it is right now touring at film festivals, and I think then will be more publicly available. But I just want to make a final note on that, Jonathan, because, you know, in this field of aging, one of the things that I am so focused on and have my eyes forward to for the future is our desperate need for caregivers and the challenges that people face in unpaid caregiving. This film highlights what it is like to be an individual living with Alzheimer's and dementia and then to also be their caregiver. And so this, boy, you know, I know a film is good when it sticks with me for a day, but this thing has stuck with me for a month. I can't stop thinking about it. So I will keep you posted on how we can see that film in the future, but it is excellent.
Yeah. What's the title of it again? So if we wanted to source it.
It's the Glenner Center's Recreate the Past to Reclaim the Present. Yeah.
I appreciate highlighting that because I think about the challenge of caregivers and just the stress at that time of life. You know, often it relies on families, as you mentioned, unpaid providers of care. And so the need for support. And so, you know, critically important because often you enter into that stage of life and it happens suddenly in many ways. And then you're trying to figure out, you know, the whole terrain of providing for an elder adult.
Yeah, so many people say they fall into this unexpectedly and are not prepared, don't have the resources, and it's very tough to manage.
So if you could, Jocelyn, you work with a lot of community organizations and city governments and whatnot. Can you just kind of highlight the breadth of those that you're interfacing with?
Yeah, so that is we do sort of paint with a broad brush when we are engaging with our community. We have a lot of different collaborators and partnerships that span from, you know, as small as the students at the university. So we have a variety of different programs that we engage with our students, including our community call hub and volunteer opportunities and webinars and blog posts, all the way up to large-scale municipalities. So we have worked with counties. So we just completed a project with the County of Madera in early 2025. And then right now we are engaged with municipalities in North County, San Diego, including Encinitas and Vista and Oceanside, helping to develop their age-friendly community action plans. And then in between area, we are really connected with the members of our San Diego community who are working in the aging space, including places like the Glenner Center and St. Paul's and Meals on Wheels. My director, he always uses this analogy where he says that CEAL sort of works as the string on the necklace to connect all the pearls and the gems that are all over San Diego, because this community has a robust amount of services and great opportunities to be in this space. But sometimes, you know, we all get a little siloed and it's difficult to know what's going on just across town.
So that's a very meaningful symbol. That it does sounds like it really captures the work that you're doing in bringing partners together. You had shared something before with me about some intergenerational work that you're involved in.
Yeah, I think you highlighted earlier just the challenges that older adults are facing when it comes to social isolation and loneliness. And I kind of alluded to the fact that we're doing a lot of community-wide assessments right now with our age-friendly community planning. And I'll say in almost every community, whether it's rural, whether it's urban, whether it's people from different diverse backgrounds across younger, older people to older people, what we are consistently hearing is this demand for more connection, more social opportunities. So one program that we are working on right now at San Diego State's CEAL is our community call hub. Now, we had an intergenerational call hub that we had a pilot program for in 2024. And this was an opportunity for students at San Diego State to be connected with older adults in our community. This was, again, one of those really key partnerships where we worked with an organization called Determined Health, who provided us with a call hub platform. And we partnered with Meals on Wheels to help us identify older adults in our community who may be socially isolated. These students made weekly 15-minute calls to these older adults that were strictly focused on friendship, connection, and building a meaningful relationship. And what we found is that even just over the course of 4 months, there was a major shift in the older adults' loneliness score when measured by the UCLA loneliness scale. So we are working right now to relaunch the call hub. And what we want to do is make this more expansive. We want to engage community members of all ages to be reaching out to older adults, because what we found is that students are just as socially isolated as older adults, and so are a lot of members of our community. So we really wanted to broaden our reach with this program.
What a wonderful reciprocal relationship, truly. I mean, as you spoke of students that might be isolated, seniors that are isolated, and providing that opportunity where they can connect. I know the Surgeon General, I think it was last year, spoke to a health crisis of loneliness, and so keenly aware of that and how important it is to be able to gather seniors. I know here we have a community health navigator at the Y who does those reach out calls to seniors that are members that we may not see for a little bit. So reaching out and inviting them in for a potluck or a social or a watercolor class. So I think it's wonderful that you're speaking to that.
I'm going to have to get my name on that list, I think, Jonathan. I want those calls.
I know, it is wonderful. We'll call you, Jocelyn. Come on over, join us.
I'm ready to watercolor. I'm ready.
Now, I know you do educational things as well. There's like a CEAL webinar series to provide information.
Yeah, so San Diego State University is an age-friendly university. And what that means is we are really focused on making sure that SDSU is inclusive and accessible to people of all ages and all abilities. We have a small but mighty team working on that matter. But so one of the things that we've been really focusing on at CEAL is trying to elevate research and innovative thinking in the field of aging. So we have monthly healthy longevity webinars that are led by students, they're led by professionals in the field, and we've had people from all over the country engage and bring forth a topic that they're interested in, research that's coming out. We've had a really broad range. I'll share that personally, when I just got my master's in public health and my master's in social work in May of 2024 last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. One of my first speaking opportunities about my research was a CEAL Healthy Longevity webinar where I presented on the impacts of sexual ageism and healthcare, and how sometimes it's very difficult for older adults to access sexual healthcare because healthcare professionals have their own ageist beliefs about older adults.
Well, interesting.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you illuminating that. No, really, for those that are aging to actually have a satisfying, vibrant life throughout.
Yeah. But we've had a whole host of topics. We have one coming up in the next few days here that is called Aging with Pride, and it's a focus on the challenges that LGBTQ members face as caregivers. We've had some that are focused on things like advanced care planning. I know as a social work intern, sometimes some of the most challenging conversations, we're encouraging people to set up an advanced care plan so that if something were to happen to them, they have a plan and their family's not having to bear the burden of that. So we're having topics that range from research to practical information. We were just talking about the importance of reducing social isolation and loneliness. We have a speaker coming up in August who will be focused on ways that older adults can access behavioral health and mental health services. So,
Jocelyn, that's all. No, it's educational for me, but it's excellent information. It's practical. It is things that as active aging adults, really valuable to be aware of those resources. How would the public get to that? I mean, a program like this gets information out about SEAL. We could put a link in the chat at the end or put it on the program, but where would they go to find like those webinars and whatnot?
Absolutely. So what I would say is if anybody is, first of all, let me rewind a few steps here and talk about that call hub. We are currently recruiting volunteers. So if you're like, man, I would love to be, making that weekly friendly phone call, or if you know somebody, that would benefit from getting a call, you can sign up on our website to volunteer or to get calls. So that is available. The sign-up sheet's available on our website. For the SEAL webinars, we have a whole library of webinars that are also available on our website, which we can link. On top of that, if you're listening to this and you're saying, man, I've got to get onto your webinars, I have something to say, I have an important research topic, you can also reach out to me by email, or there is also a form on our website you can fill out and send that. It'll come right to me.
And if you were to verbally just share the website, and then we will put a link in the webinar.
It's CEAL, which is C as in cat, EAL.SDSU.edu.
Wonderful. Anything that we didn't talk about? I think you had a caregiver connection program.
Yes. So, I think we've touched on a lot of things that are coming forward to me as really critical pieces when we're looking ahead about how to age well, including that social isolation piece and building social capital, which was the theme of our symposium. We've talked about our call hub program and sharing information. The San Diego Caregiver Connection is another one of those pieces that is really critically important when we're looking forward, because what we know is that we're going to be in this new era where there's going to be more older adults for the first time in U.S. history than there are young people. And the implications of that is that there are simply not enough caregivers to care for people that are aging or that have disabilities. And so, like you mentioned earlier, that sometimes falls onto family members, unpaid caregiving, or just a lack of services that are available to people in our actual healthcare system. So our Caregiver Connection program was launched as an opportunity. We received a grant to help educate around 200 caregivers with formal training for how to assist somebody with their activities of daily life, or how to transfer someone out of bed, skills that you don't come with when you sometimes fall into that caregiver role. What we found is that there was an incredible demand from people to have more of these courses available. So we received a second grant for that, and it was open to all caregivers. So it was paid, unpaid, anybody that was serving in a caregiver role. What made our caregiver program unique was that there was this peer-to-peer support opportunity. So caregivers could meet virtually or in person to connect and talk about challenges, successes, things that they're running into. In the past 2 years, so this program with the peer support started in 2023, we've had over 285 peer support programs, peer-to-peer connections, and then there have been over 2,000 people served by those programs. So
that's a tremendous impact.
Yeah. I just really want to highlight that work because my director, Michelle, and my colleague, Fernando, have done a tremendous amount of work. We are a small but mighty team, and they have done a big lift to get that program off the ground and running. And so I just definitely want to highlight that, and pat them on the back.
I just want to say, we're all going to, age to a point where we're going to need additional care and whatnot. So the work that's being done now and the foundation for our community really helps all of us thrive. So I really value the work of SEAL. One thing, just in closing, if we could, whenever we have a guest on, I want to understand from them what might be important to them, how they go about well-being and aging well. You have a ways to go, but we all like to learn from one another in terms of different well-being strategies and what's important. And so if you would, what's important to you in terms of your well-being practice?
So that's, for me, I'm a dietitian by trade. That was my first career. And so eating vegetables is and fiber is sort of a boring wellness thing that I just happen to do because of where I've landed in my life and career. But one thing I'll say that sometimes is challenging for me is staying engaged in physical activity. And so what I've really tried to do is to challenge myself to find new ways to stay engaged in physical activity, to keep it fun, keep it fresh, because I know that physical activity, of course, is good for your body, but it, for me, is so good for my mind and my mental health and reducing stress. So I'll share with you, Jonathon, that last night I took my very first professional kickboxing class, and Yes, I'm feeling like $1,000,000 today, even though I can barely lift my arms higher than my shoulders, but it was an excellent experience.
That sounds wonderful. I could tell by the smile on your face that it was a wonderful experience. So you'll have to get back at it. The more frequently you do it, then you won't have the soreness. But that's fantastic. That's really exciting.
Yeah, we
Thank
have a
you.
philosophy of if a body in motion stays in motion at our house. So if when you're hurt, you at least got to still go on a walk.
That's wonderful. Jocelyn, really a pleasure. Anything in closing? Anything else that we need to talk about or to be shared?
I just want to say that it's been a pleasure to work in the field of aging. I was talking earlier about how a lot of times when you read articles, there's this impending doom about this shifting demographic, and it sounds so scary. But I just want to remind everybody that we are at a really pivotal time to be thinking about aging. There are so many brilliant thinkers in this field and people who are thinking innovatively. And if you've got something that you can identify or recognize as a way to make aging a positive experience for somebody, to support somebody, there's so much space in this field. So I just want to encourage people to think about aging as an exciting field to be in, as a great place to be, and to recognize that we are privileged when we get to age. So.
Beautifully said. And one thing I'm holding on to is that tipping point that you talked about. There's more people, will be very shortly, more people that are in need of care than caregivers. And so this very important work that you guys are bringing through at CEAL. You're a wonderful spokesman. Really appreciate this conversation and be able to amplify the voice of resources in the community. So Jocelyn, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. It was great to be here.
And for those viewing, please be well until we're together again. Thank you very much.